Hey y'all, it's Savannah and this is Savannah Says. So today I'm here to do the mid-year Freakout book tag, and I'm going to answer these questions, just talk about the things that I've read so far, the things that I want to read, how I feel like my reading year has been going. If you see me looking down, I'm looking at the computer. So without further ado, let's get started. So before I get started, I just want to go through like my little stats that I got off Goodreads. Hopefully by the end of the year, I'll have like more in-depth stats because I'm bad at keeping track of stuff, and I have not like kept track of any of the books I've been reading besides like marking it on Goodreads. People have like pie charts and stuff. We about to have these basic Goodreads stats for you today, but the next time I got you. So first up, I have read this year 41 out of 60 books. My original goal was 35, but I obviously surpassed that, and I thought, let's just raise the bar. I'm probably not going to raise the bar again. If I like get past 60, I'll probably just keep it at 60, and then whatever I finish with, I will make like the new goal for the next year. But yeah, 41 out of 60, we're not doing too bad considering it's like probably July by the time this is being posted, the beginning of July. So pages read, I have read 18,940 pages this year, which doesn't really feel like that much because again, I tend to read books that are at least 400 pages. Like to me, it's not a good book if it's not 400 pages long, which leads me to my next stat that the average page count of a book that I read is 461. That track. You cannot explain a cohesive plot in less than 300 pages. There needs to be at least 350, preferably 400. My average rating has been 3-star, which again, if you've been watching me, that's not a shock. I am working on it. I'm working on it. The 5-star rating system is just not good. It's not in depth enough for me. And if I have to pick something out of 5, 3 covers the most ground, which is why this stat exists. The bar is high. The shortest book I've read has been A Lady's Guide to Celestial Mechanics. Boring. The longest book has been Zodiac 7 Heartless Sky, which came in at 989 pages and needed to be edited. I read every page and it is what it is. The most popular book has been Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas, which is no surprise. The least popular book has been Te Amo by Sienna Minks, and again, I'm not shocked because this book literally was trash. So now that we've got the stats out of the way, we can move on to the questions. The first question is the best book you've read so far this year. And first up, we have Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. I know I've talked about this before, and honestly, it's hella popular online. I gave this book 5 stars. It was my first 5-star of the year, and this book was just good. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It's basically an urban fantasy about this girl named Bryce who's a half human, half fae, and she lives in the city, and she's basically going through like a murder mystery. That's like the plot, and I can't really say more without giving it away, but I think this is a very good book, and I've yet to read the sequel, but this was the first good book that I read this year, and I was coming off of like a 2-year reading slump, and this book sort of like revigorated my passion for reading again. So definitely Crescent City is the first one. And just a disclaimer, I know these questions are meant to have like one answer, but all of my answers are definitely going to have like 3 to 4 books, and I might rant a little bit. So I'm gonna try to keep this as short as possible, but definitely one of the best books I've read this year has been Crescent City. Another book that I read this year that I think qualifies as best book is Wolf Song by TJ Klune. And this is the first book in the Green Creek Paranormal Romance series, and it is a male-male werewolf shifter romance. I gave this 3 stars, but I read it in February, and to this day, I still like think about it. And to me, that signifies that it's a good book. And it's about this guy named Ox, and he basically, it's like a coming of age story with him and the love of his life named Joe, and there's like a weird age gap, but like overlooking the age gap, something about it was just so like, I don't want to say touching, but it just really made me, it stayed in my memory, right? Like it stayed on my mind, and when I was finished reading it, I was just like, damn, that was really good. Even though I only gave it 3 stars because my reading experience was just like hella weird with it, but overall, I think it was just a really good book. It's a good book, you should read it. Another book that I read that qualifies as best book I've read this year, Path of Destruction by Drew Karpyshyn. I can never say this man's name right. Apologies. But this is the first book in the Darth Bane trilogy, which is a Star Wars Legends novel. So it's about Darth Bane, and it takes place, you know, I think like around 70 to 100 years before The Phantom Menace. And I know I've talked about this before, but like if you're into Star Wars, I think you should definitely read this. To me, it definitely was a 5-star. It was so good. Like, I don't know, I like all the dark side characters. I like villains. I'm a villain girl. I'm in my villain era, especially these days. I don't know. It was just a good book. Like, it's about Darth Bane and how he basically just like becomes the first Sith Lord, or like the next Sith Lord after the Sith Lords have been extinct. So I think he had a good journey, and I listened to this on audio, which also was really good, and I'm not an audiobook girl, so recommend. And lastly, for question number 1 under best books I've read this year is Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. And like, obviously, if you've watched my channel for the little bit of time it's been up, I went on about this book. Like, I thought it was really good. I gave it 4 stars. It's about this girl who falls in love with her boyfriend's father. I don't know. I was not expecting to like it as much as I did. Like, whatever Penelope Douglas sprinkled in this book, I ate it up. So question number 2 is best sequel that you've read this year. The Rule of Two, which is the second book in the Bane trilogy. And this book introduced like my favorite character of this series, and her name is Xana, and she's just a bad bitch, period. The second book for best sequel that I've read this year is Gleam by Raven Kennedy. And you're gonna laugh at me later in this video when I go off about like another book in this series, but to me, first of all, this is the Plated Prisoner series. I've talked about Guild on the channel before. This is the 3rd book in the series, and this is the one where like shit actually started to happen, and I think that's why I liked it so much. Like, the first 2 books are definitely like character driven. Definitely the main character Orin is like discovering herself and learning about herself and working through her mental trauma, which is cute or whatever. But this book, there was like actually a fucking plot, and the plot was like political in nature. There's like twist, and at the end of the book there's like a good cliffhanger, which normally I would never say, but it's a good cliffhanger. This book to me was just so much better than the first 2 that I have to acknowledge what it did for me in the moment, even though the next book sort of pissed me off. Question 3 is new releases that you haven't read but you want to read soon, eventually before the year ends. And first up, I have Estasia by Legrand, and this is part of like, I chose this out of my like my Halloween jar for my Summerween thing, so I'm definitely going to read it like before summer's end. But it came out this year, and I don't know, it just gives vibes like it's gonna be good. Like, I can just imagine that I'm going to enjoy this, and so I have to keep that faith. And then the second new release that I want to read this year that just came out but I haven't gotten to yet is Lockland, which is the 3rd book in the Foundry Side trilogy by Robert Jackson Bennett. I don't really know what this book is about. I mean, I'm assuming it's continuing the adventures of the first book, and I've only read the first book as of now. I want to binge read and get to that. Yeah. Question 4 is most anticipated release of this year, and I would have to say my first anticipated release, Soul Taken, which is the 13th book in the Mercy Thompson series, which is a paranormal urban fantasy series, and it's about a woman named Mercy Thompson who is a coyote shifter, but she's immune to magic, and she's mated with an alpha werewolf. And the way that the 12th book, like the conflict of the 12th book, I remember it being good, and so I'm hoping that the 13th one is good. And for the most part, for me at least, this series has maintained like a 3 to 4 star for every book, so can't go wrong with that. My second most anticipated release is kind of embarrassing, but it's Zodiac 8, and it's currently untitled. And I know you're all like, girl, you like Zodiac Academy. Yes, I did. I ate it up. I don't know, it was messy, and I love reading messy stuff, and it just, the way book 7 ended, I have to know how they're going to right the wrongs that they've committed against these characters. If for nothing else, I have to read this book because I need to know that like my faves are going to be redeemed, taken care of, get the happily ever after that they fucking deserve. I'm expecting this book to be like 1,000 fucking pages, because of course it is. It always is. Even if it's not good, I'm gonna pretend that it's good because I have to delude myself somehow. So question 5 is your biggest disappointment of the year. Here we go with the rant. The first book that I thought was a disappointment was A Touch of Ruin by Scarlett St. Clair, which is the 2nd book in the Hades and Persephone series, but it's like the trilogy that's from Persephone's point of view. And honestly, I gave this like 1 star. Actually, I think I was gonna give this no stars, but I read the whole thing and I wanted my review to count on Goodreads, so I was being petty and I gave it 1 star. And to me, this book was literally, it wasn't unreadable because I read it, but it was just so bad that I've never ever in my life read a book where the main character is that stupid. Stephanie was so dumb to me. She wreaked havoc on everyone's life. She got her friends killed. Her friends lost her jobs because of her. She like literally legit ruined someone's soul. Like, I'm not kidding. She actually ruined someone's soul and prevented her from like reaching eternal peace. To me, it was unforgivable, and I just cannot stomach the thought of like reading the next one. And I still have not. And I read this book in February. I don't even know why I was disappointed, because the first one from her POV wasn't even that good. But I liked the one from Hades POV, so I was like, I'll give it a chance. But this one to me was just like unforgivably bad. So I don't know if I'm gonna continue. My second biggest disappointment is definitely the Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. Olivia. Again, I have a whole video on why I thought this book was boring. I really wanted to like this because the premise is so good, but the book itself I thought was really boring. There was no plot. I hated pretty much every character. I don't know why I thought I was gonna like this book as much as I thought I was going to, but it was 3 stars. It wasn't like the worst thing I've ever read, but it was just disappointing because I wanted to like it more than I did. And here we go. The rant that I had been practicing for days. The biggest disappointment of this year to me, Glow by Raven Kennedy. And you're probably thinking, you're disappointed. Why do you have the book? I bought the fucking book before I read it. It came out like last Friday and I pre-ordered the book, and then I also like just read it on my Kindle, and I have to laugh. This book to me was so bad. I gave it 2 stars, and it's not even bad because of like the plot, right? It's not bad because of the characters. It's truly just bad because of the length of the book and the way the author does not acknowledge the plot until the book is almost over. To help you understand what I mean, just to give you some background, right? Okay. You know how Stephanie Meyer in like 2008 pretty much changed the game with YA paranormal, and like with Twilight, everybody wanted to write the next Twilight. That was like the thing to do, right? I would say for this generation, as much as everybody does not want to admit it, Sarah J Maas is that bitch, okay? I know she's problematic, but she writes long ass books, but they're so full of plot that like it's okay. And all the characters have arcs, they all have journeys, they all have personalities, they all have, even if you don't like them, they all have something going on that makes you want to read a long ass book. And the problem with this is that now everybody wants to be Sarah J Maas, and especially the book talk girls, the book talk girlies. I, for the most part, like pretty much every book that I've seen on Book Talk. Like, I don't care if it's well written. I just want to be entertained. And the problem is these people are writing these books that are almost 1,000 pages long, like Sarah J Maas, but there's no fucking plot. There's no plot. This book is 714 pages. And you would say, why is that a problem? Because I read big books all the time. But the problem with this is that it's 714 pages and they don't even pursue the plot from the 3rd book. Like, there's a cliffhanger in book 3. They don't even address the cliffhanger from book 3 until after page 550. And so you're reading this thinking like, why in the fuck is this book this long when there's nothing happening? Like, it's not even that I can say like there's character development, you're learning, like there is development, but the problem with this series in particular, which is why I'm so disappointed, is that like Arin, the main character, she has been getting developed for 3 whole books. But at what point is she gonna get through the fucking trauma? Like, at what point is she gonna figure it the fuck out and like do something? And I'm tired of reading about her going through the same fucking trauma. It's like we're on a hamster wheel of nonsense, and it really just pissed me off so bad. And I hate to say that, like, well, I don't hate to say it, I put a lot of expectations on this, like, because book 3 to me was the first one where something actually happened and the cliffhanger was crazy, and I was just like really waiting to like see what happened next. They don't even address any of that shit until like the end of the book, and it's so annoying because like the 5th book's not coming out till next year. I feel like I'm being taken advantage of by these authors because they write these books knowing that we're going to read them, and we do read them, and we should stop. We should stop reading them because there's no reason that I'm reading 714 pages and you don't even do anything until page 550. Get an editor. Number 6. Biggest surprise of the year. Again, birthday girl. Like I said before, I'm not really an age gap person. I think that's weird in real life for the most part. I mean, they had like a 20-year age gap in this story. Well, it was like 18 years, but same thing. But for the most part, this book was great. Biggest surprise. I liked it. My second biggest surprise of the year, no one is shocked, Zodiac Academy. This book in particular was like not the best one, but something about this book is like addictive. You will just start reading, and then the next thing you know, you're on book 6 and you're asking yourself, where has my mind gone? This literally took over my life for 2 weeks, literally derailing my life reading these fucking books. It's so addicting. And even though it's not the best written thing I've ever read, it definitely, absolutely needed to be heavily edited by the end of it all. I'm surprised because I'm just kind of like in love with the characters and I just want them to be happy. And to me, that's what else signifies a good book, right? Number 7 is favorite new author. And I would have to say Katrina Hall, I think is how you pronounce her name. And she is the author of the Experiments in Terror series, but she's got a lot of books, but I've only read this one book here called Dark House, which is the first book in the Experiments in Terror series. I think there's like 13 books. I don't know. I gave this 3 stars, which no one is shocked by that, but to me, it was a good first book, and while I wasn't scared, I can see how it was creepy and like unsettling, and I enjoyed it for that. And this is basically a horror romance series, which and it's about this girl named Perry, and she's in this like abandoned lighthouse situation with this guy who's making like a paranormal TV show, and I guess he's a love interest. Didn't really care for him in this book, but the imagery of like the spooky lighthouse and like seeing ghosts and stuff was like, I don't know, it was just good. Number 8 is newest fictional crush, and I'm gonna insert pictures of fan art just so you can just envision if you haven't read the book. And the first fictional crush I would have to say is Orion from Zodiac Academy, and that's so embarrassing to say. He's a vampire, whatever. I don't know, he's just like, he's kind of mean. And I think that's my vibe when men in books are, when they're kind of mean and they're snarky and they're just like asshole-ish, but not to the person that they're in love with. Ate it up. My second favorite crush is Slade from the Plated Prisoner series, even though I just talked mad shit about it. He did it for me. I don't know. He's my favorite character of the series, and that's saying a lot because he doesn't even really get there until book 2, and then he's not even really there until like book 3. So into it. Number 9 is new favorite characters, and it's the same answer. These characters literally like have me skipping through chapters to get to their chapter just to see what's going on with them. Like, I just want to know. I want to know. I think they're good. They're well written for what it is. They're carrying these series on their backs. Number 10 is books that made you cry, and I'm not really a crier in anything. There was a part in Crescent City that definitely made me misty-eyed, and I was kind of sitting there like, damn, like, am I getting emotional? So I definitely would say this got the closest. The second book for this question I would have to say is Heartless Sky, which is the 7th Zodiac Academy book, which it didn't make me emotional. It just like emotionally traumatized me to the point where like my hands were sweating in real life holding the phone trying to read because I was so pissed off that I felt like I was being, again, manipulated, personally victimized by the author. And to me, that's basically crying, right? Number 11 is book that made you happy, and I can't really think of anything that made me happy, like exceptionally happy. Number 12 is most beautiful book that you've bought or received, and I don't know, I haven't really like bought that many books. Like, maybe I'd say House of Sky and Breath by Sarah J Maas, because I think this is a good color blue. Maybe we'll say Estasia by Legrand, because I clearly keep going on and on about how I like the cover. Number 13 is books that you need to read by the year's end, and it's about to be a Sarah J Maas summer. Sarah J Maas, the next 6 months, Sarah J Maas, okay? The first thing that I need to read, House of Earth and Blood, okay? It's literally it's been sitting by my bed since like March, and I got like 100 pages in, and then for whatever reason I just stopped, and I think I don't know why I stopped, but I have to finish it. I need to read it. I want to read reviews. I want to watch the YouTube videos. I want to watch people freaking out over it online. My sister told me it was good, even though I've seen like mixed reviews, but knowing me, I'll probably like it. The next thing I need to read, another Sarah J Maas, A Court of Silver Flames, which is the 4th book in the Court of Thorn and Roses series. But the problem is, it has been like 5 years since I've read those books, and I tried to read this. I got like I got like maybe 80 pages into this and had no clue who anybody was anymore. Like, there was so many names. I literally was like, so I want to read this, even though I don't really care about the main character of this, because the main character is the older sister of the main character in like the original trilogy, and she was a bitch, so I don't really know if I'm gonna like it. But again, I've been told it's good. My sister told me it was good, but I've seen, again, middling reviews. But like, I have to read it. It's been months. I think this came out literally last year. Like, enough's enough. The last thing I want to read this year, Kingdom of Ash, okay? This book literally came out in 2018, and I have had this on my shelf since 2018 and have not touched it. I just look at it because I think it's pretty. I don't read it. I have not reread Throne of Glass since 2017, because like I've always loved reading, but like in 2017, Throne of Glass like put me on to reading. I was reading like a lot. Seems to be a Sarah J Maas thing. She gets you back into it after you go through a slump. But the problem is, this is like the 8th book in the series, and I don't remember anything, so I'm gonna have to reread them, and I think that's why I'm putting it off. But I have to just do it. And yeah, that's all I have for you today. What have been your favorite books this year? I will put the questions in the description box so you can like answer them yourself. Tell me if you agree with these decisions, if you've read these books, if you think that I'm right, think that I'm wrong. I love a good discussion. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.